This is a question we're hearing a lot. How can we change our culture? Businesses want to find new behaviour, new attitudes, new conversations. Basically, they want to find better results. But they don't know how. There should be 3 simple steps. 1, decide what kind of culture you want. 2, map out the behaviours that define your target culture. And then 3, get everyone to change. But what you've got to get everyone to change are habits and attitudes, patterns of behaviour, what they care about, what they talk about, what will actually deliver these changes in behaviour. Nobody seems to have this answer. What you can't do is just tell people to start doing this and stop doing that. We know the answer's got to be something like this. You get the leaders on board, you build the vision, you get managers aligned, you create a change brand, drive the change vision through the workforce with workshops and all kinds of support activities. You produce a plan like this. You emphasize mindset. You do all these good things. But in the end, after great preparation, brilliant branding, fantastic launch events and inspiring workshops, people have got to change. When the fireworks are over, people have got to start changing. They've got to change what they do little by little, day by day, month after month. And they need to go on changing for years. They've got to change one by one and all together. They've got to change habits, patterns, attitudes and assumptions. They've got to start having new kinds of conversations. Most culture change plans fail because they don't know how to drive, sustain and deliver this kind of personal change month after month. In other words, most culture change plans fail because they don't have a change engine. And that's what we've got. We've got a change engine. So what does a change engine look like? What does it have to do? What does it look like? A change engine has to be something simple. It's something that people do which is simple. It's based on a recurring cycle of a few elements. It needs to involve everyone in the business. It has to be rewarding to use, and it's got to work. It's got to be effective. It's got to be delivered as an enterprise app. It's got to be digitally available across the organization. And what does it do? It's got to drive new habits, new patterns of behavior, create new attitudes, and generate new kinds of conversation. It's got to be simple. It's got to be a simple recurring cycle of action and thought that, if repeated, will create the new habits and patterns, and in time, the new culture. And by the way, it has to be green. It has to be green because people will only do this day after day if it's interesting and useful to them. Useful to them, not just to the company. People have to choose to do this, and you can't cascade this kind of choice from the top. Cascade strategies are basically red. So let me tell you about the Delta Star change engine, because the Delta Star change engine is green. How to change a culture by getting change to bubble up from inside people, one by one and all together. The Delta Star change engine is a simple recurring cycle of action and thought that creates new habits and patterns, and in time, a new culture. It gets everybody noticing, measuring, tracking, and reflecting. It gets every team sharing, comparing, discussing, and learning. It creates new habits and patterns, new attitudes, and new conversations in a few minutes a day. How? By focusing everybody in the business on the same 5 things. Every day, day by day. The client organization, with our help, chooses 5 core qualities that they believe, and we believe, will drive the new culture, the culture they want. For example, let's say the 5 things to focus on are customer service, the quality of customer service, how aware you are on cost, how aware you are on your quality, the quality of your work, your teamwork, and the quality of your time management. Let's say everybody in the business is focused on tracking themselves against these 5 things. At the end of the day, everybody scores themselves against these 5 trackers. Let's call these the 5 core KPIs. They score themselves on a 1 to 10 scale and on their delta star. This is the delta star. Delta equals change. The delta star is what drives change. It's a 5-point star. Each point is a 1 to 10 scale. Your scores are logged on your own dashboard, which is private, that's important, but it's added to your team star dashboard, which is shared across the organisation. So you privately score yourself, but you share your team scores across the organisation. You can also make notes on your star. As you score yourself on a point, you can make notes about that. These notes are also stored privately and shared anonymously across the business. You discuss your scores and your notes with your boss and your team regularly, in one-to-one sessions, in team meetings, and in appraisals. Central management can look at every team star across the business. They can see what people are working on, how they're doing, what they're talking about, and how they're feeling. The pulse of the business, a live feed. Now, the culture you get depends on the KPIs you choose. The star will deliver the culture according to the KPIs you feed into it. The culture you get depends on the KPIs you choose, and you become what you focus on in practice. If, for example, you chose these 5 things as your KPIs, you'd have the culture to match. It depends what you put in. The secret is in the 5 KPIs you choose. What do you want? How do you choose them? Well, 2 principles. 1, will they create the culture you want? And 2, will people actually enjoy tracking these measures? You see, they might create the culture you want, but people don't want to do it, like a timesheet. It's not going to work. So choosing the KPIs. Firstly, they've got to be rewarding. Whatever we track has got to be rewarding to track. It can't be boring. It's got to be rewarding at the individual level and at the team level, and it's got to make sense to the business. We need to get people to want to do what the organisation and this system needs them to do. If they don't want to do this, they won't do it properly. It's not going to be valuable. But let me give you an example where this will work. If you wanted to drive a high delta culture, here's how you use the delta star system to do it. High delta is defined like this. A delta is making a deliberate, successful change that moves you towards your objectives. A delta is an action you make. So high delta people do this a lot. In a high delta culture, every team is focused on delta day by day. High delta equals self-managing, self-reliant, resilient and determined. Learning and improving day by day, focused on objectives, high-performing teams. If that's what you want, here are the high delta KPIs. They're not the only ones, but this is a pretty powerful selection. Start with the right. Enjoy. How much did you enjoy today? 2. How much did you learn today? 3. How much did you enjoy the teamwork today? How good were you with the teamwork today? 4. Did you add value today? Did you create any profit? Were you aware of that? 5. How much delta did you add? So let's say you chose these. These are personal measures. Note that these delta, enjoy, learn, team and add. These are personal measures, quite green measures, not just external company measures or observed measures. How did you feel about your day? What did you get out of it? It follows that if you do this, you'll find this rewarding yourself. So that's the Delta Star change engine in very short summary. Delta Star will deliver any culture you want. You just choose the right KPIs. It will also drive performance as well as change. You won't just change the business, you can drive performance once you have changed the business. Let me just summarize. What does a change engine need to look like? It has to be a simple recurring cycle that everybody will do, that is rewarding and is effective. It needs to be delivered as an enterprise app, and it needs to drive new habits, new patterns, new attitudes, and new conversations across the business. A simple recurring cycle of action and thought that creates new habits and patterns, and in time, the new culture. It will also, with this Delta system, generate a new stream of high value, incredibly high value, management information on individual and team performance and on how people are feeling. You get the pulse of the business 24/7, a live feed. So there we are, a green engine driving green change by promoting new green habits and patterns, noticing, tracking, reflecting, sharing, learning, changing, a culture of feedback and practicing what you need to be good at. And finally, focusing not just on your objectives, but on my objectives. What kind of culture do you want?